All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Playing to Win. I'm joined today with my friend Zander. How you doing, Zander?
Doing great. Thanks, Rich.
And if you guys haven't caught it yet on Netflix, there's a new Chris Hemsworth film out called The Extraction. I was telling Zander before we got on, I'm like, you must get this a lot, but you look a lot like Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, no, I have got a lot. Thank goodness it's changed from Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So I'm going to keep the beard.
At least it's not something like, hey, you remind me of Woody Harrelson, right?
Yeah, that's if it goes that way, I'm worried.
Yeah. So a little bit of an origin story here. So this one's on side hustles. As you guys know, this playlist that I'm creating on PTW, it stands for Playing to Win. There's two distinct ways that I see people play in life. They either play to win or they play not to lose. And they might sound similar, but they're different. Playing to win is going for first place. It's going for the big win. Playing not to lose is more playing it safe, which does not create big wins in life. And there's times in life, again, I've said this as well, which I'll repeat, that I think you should definitely be playing to win, which should be in your early years. Whereas later on in your years, you're probably going to play a little more defensively and take slightly lower risks and maybe play not to lose. So it's not like either one is the best version of it, although I do tend to prefer to lean on playing to win. There will be times in your life where you're going to want to play not to lose. I also have to address the chat on YouTube. Guys, if you're watching this anywhere else on the internet, I'd hugely appreciate it if you headed over to YouTube and watched it there, hit the like button. That's where I'm trying to get the most attention on this, although it does distribute to other platforms. The chat area is normally set to members only. There's been an update to the back end of YouTube, so I no longer have the classic studio. I'm now on the more modern studio, and unfortunately, they haven't updated the members only chat button. So this is going to be a little bit noisy. I'm going to try to be attentive to the members chat, because over here it pops up in a bright green. So if you have a question along the way or a super chat, I'll definitely try to keep my eyes open for it. Zander, you're a youngish man. You're in your early 30s. You're living in South Africa. Mm-hmm. You're location independent. You do quite well. I met you, I don't know, about a year ago in the 1%, so our private men's community. You've shared some very interesting posts, which we won't touch on. But as far as the business world goes, there's a lot of guys that talk about side hustles. And the most common ones that I hear is, I'm doing a side hustle, and it's something like, I'm driving for Uber, Lyft, I walk people's dogs, I make YouTube something or another, or I'm writing a book or something like that. And most side hustles, or most people that try to define side hustles anyway, they don't look like side hustles to me. They look like a nightmare. Like when somebody brags about Uber, we were talking about this before. I think you did a math on it, but what did you discover when you found out, when you did the numbers on it?
Yeah, so I had a look, and there's a link. You can just Google like average Uber earnings in the US, and the median earnings is like less. There's between like $7 and $15 across all the states, but that's before they even factor in like the depreciation from the vehicle per hour. So like once you do that, you're talking about below minimum wage for this supposedly side hustle that people equate to building a business, or, something that's going to generate wealth or freedom for them. And really, you'd be better off working at McDonald's.
Yeah. When you start breaking down the math, there's lots of videos on it out there too. It'll show you that in most places you're making a lot less money than what you think. And at the same time, you're also sitting around a lot, twiddling your thumbs, waiting for the app to light up to say, go collect this ride. So I'm vehemently opposed to guys wasting their time on nonsense, bad relationships, bad women, bad side hustles. I hate that term, side hustle. So this will be the topic of today. Coaching is an area that you've found to be quite profitable, and you also like recurring revenue. And since we're talking about coaching on this one, before we kind of get into your Batman origin story, let me throw this in the stream here. So as you guys know, I've done a lot of coaching over the last 4 or 5 odd years. Let me just check when I started this account. Does it say here on the top? No. I think it's about 4 or 5 years ago. And my main area that I talk to guys around is divorce, dating advice, and then I'm going to say probably the startup stuff. But this all kind of ties into one area. It's really about chasing excellence. It's worked out well. I've had great reviews. There's 196. They're all from real people. I've had way more calls. Not everybody is going to leave a review, obviously, but the reviews have been great. They're 5-star, and I'm billing currently at $25 a minute. So is it cost effective for me? Absolutely. For the end user, there's a price to pay, but I put that price there between me and my time. And this is totally passive, by the way, guys. I don't do any marketing promotion. I don't have any kind of email marketing for, hey, if you want coaching for divorce or anything like that, book a call here. It's just nonchalantly placed in the stuff that I'm doing as I go about my day. And it probably pays anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 USD a month added to the kitty. Now, that's about a third of the way through to what you reckon most people can get to, about $10,000 a month building in a coaching business. But I wanted you to kind of tell them more about your origin story, about how you got into what you're doing, because you started quite young. So it's been about a 10-year journey for you. So I'll throw you on the soapbox and you can fill these guys in about that.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for that, Rich. And I agree with you, just before we get into the story, is that side hustle, you've got to be so careful. I put a post about this in the group, just the language that's involved with that, what that then means to you, it just takes away any focus from it. So the way I got started with where I am today is my mum had always been an entrepreneur. So I'd seen that, but I'd also seen how businesses can just take over your life in a way of when you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to structure things properly, the money doesn't come in, but it takes all your time away. And I saw that with her to a point where she actually ended up in hospital, nearly dying from just overwork when I was 11. And then after that, she couldn't work in the business anymore. So she actually had to put in systems for people to, run the business for her. And because she physically couldn't do it, she was paralyzed for a number of years being able to do that. But she was able to turn the business around and sell it and retire about 4 years after that, from being in complete disaster to just knowing what questions to ask and get the right answers, was able to turn her business and life around by doing that. So from a very early age, I had this like, wow, okay, things can change massively just by having the right questions and answers. But I was pursuing a professional tennis career and chasing that dream. Moved to Spain when I was 16 to the academy Murray was at. And then later when I got injured after being on the professional tour, was very focused on trying to learn business and finance and that type of thing. But I was very fortunate in that when I came back to the UK, I came across the CEO of a company, of a leadership and development company that was one of the very best in the UK, and if not the world, at helping people understand what triggers performance. So I was very interested in this from my athletic background and from having seen what happened in the business. So begged my way in to work there. They said no, offered to work for free and moved to the other end of the country for a month without any expectations. So finally, they couldn't say no anymore, and they let me do that. And doing that at the age of 22, 23, I was kind of thrust into this world of performance and being able to ask those types of questions that got people thinking in a different way about what they were trying to achieve, and they came up with the answers. So even from the age of 22, 23, I was able to go in and coach, for example, the CFO of a global investment bank, or train Olympic coaches and athletes. I think I've got a picture here queued up that I might be able to share, Rich, if you can bring it in here.
Yeah, there you go.
Let me see where I've got it.
Was this the origin of Strivers when you got involved with doing all that?
No, this was actually after that. I'm going to get to there very quickly. So I don't know if you guys can see that picture of me shooting the gun. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was actually me coaching the Paralympic shooting team in Great Britain at 23, like coaching the coaches on how to coach their Olympic athletes, just because we knew certain things about performance that we could ask questions and give the right training. We didn't need to know how to shoot the gun better than them to be able to coach them on their own performance. And so what I'm going to get to in a minute around business coaching, it's just the same. Is 95% of the time, you don't even need an answer. You need to know the right questions to get the right performance out of these people. So I was working at that company, doing a lot of the online development because they were only working with CEOs one-on-one. So I was building out the online platforms. But then about 3 years later, they wanted to just focus on their one-to-one thing. So I started my own business, and that was a company called Strivers, which was a personal growth company. And and I created a tool for people to be able to manage their like life, kind of the what's it called? The wheel of life, where you mark each area of their life out of 10. And it was just a $10 offer. But this is why I don't like the term side hustle. I put the entire focus on that, and I was able to take that $10 offer and scale it to be able to be doing $100,000 per month in revenue, just because of being able to have that level of focus. Now, that doesn't equate to a side hustle in my mind. However, there was a big drawback with getting to that level of revenue. We got there in about about 2 years. So we got very quickly, once we'd got something in place, up to about 30,000 a month. And then you have to put in new systems and support things. But after getting to 100,000 a month, it was just so stressful, because every single month we had to be generating like nearly 4,000 new sales in order to generate that kind of revenue, which is a hell of a lot of people to be serving every single day. So what that made me realize, so this was just a little over a year ago, this was January the 12th to February 11th, 2019. And what that made me realize is that the two things you really want, okay, it's great to earn 100,000 a month, but there's stress that comes with that is out of control. And even when you're building systems and teams and everything, what you really want is you want a high-end income. So instead of selling a $10 offer, if you can sell something for $100, $500, $2,000 preferably, versus selling something for $10. And as Frank Kern and other people online say, it's as easy to sell something for $2,000 as it is for $10. And actually the people you get to work with are way more fun. And when you understand psychology, and the buying psychology, then that just becomes, okay, I now have to sell, 5 people in order to earn the same as what I used to have to sell 1,000 people.
Let me just add to that. Let me just add to that for a minute, because I think that's a really important point, because there's a lot of people that go for low-hanging, easy fruit. They'll date single moms. They'll put a program together that costs $7. How to get the best woman of your life for $7. It's like all you're going to get is a $7 woman, dude. Yeah. So when I started the one-on-one coaching, when people are looking for my time, I think I was around $2 a minute or something like that on the Clarity platform. So the average call would go for quite a long time, 45 minutes. And I would have conversations with guys. The one that stood out in my mind, which I'll repeat again, was early on, this guy out in the oil sands. This is when the dollar was strong. The price of oil was quite high. This guy booked my time because he had a lousy roommate that was sitting around getting stoned all day. He was fighting with his ex-wife over custody of the kid. And he was asking, what should I do? And it's like, dude, you make almost $200,000 a year. You're living with a stoner and you're fighting with your ex-wife. It's like, these are not conversations that are a good use of my time. And as time went on, I increased the price. I actually made about the same, if not more money, but I worked a lot less. And I became more efficient at what I was doing, because no longer was I talking for 45 minutes to get to the bottom of whatever their problem was. I could do most of my calls now today within 15 or 20 minutes. Like, most people don't talk to me for very long. So if you're going to exchange time for money, you want to do it at a high price point. And like you mentioned with Frank Kern, and I'm familiar with his work. I met him a number of years ago through Yannick Silver. But the notion really is you're always going to have a better experience and have better conversations with people at a higher price point. So there's the bottom feeders, there's the quitters, there's the low end of the scale. And there's people out there that want to service that. And that's fine. That's cool. That might be what you want to do. And I think that you should probably test it just so you can see what it's like. It's like, everybody should work a shit job at some point in their life. I've worked jobs where I've had to get up at 4 a.m. in the summertime at 17 to prune Christmas trees. Like, I've done shit jobs, right? So that'll help you distinguish the difference between a great job, a great use of your time, good value for money. Like, there's so many good things that come out of it. But sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to jump in there to share that own personal experience of my own.
No, that's brilliant. I'd much prefer that. Makes it much better to have that extra input. So that would exactly, and that was the first thing I realized from doing this. So I was if I just show you a picture, another one. Sorry, guys, I'm jumping about a bit because one of the things we're going to do is give you a link to be able to get more of these slides and things like that. But it just links into the story well. Where's it gone? Here we go. So I was actually this isn't it. So this time last year, that picture at the top, Zanzibar, I was there for 10 days. I think it was in the middle of that $100,000 month. And I was in a stunning place on like a private island earning all this money. And I was stressed out of my mind because even though that money was coming in, the support had gone down. I couldn't get the internet working. So it was just so stressful. So, the quality of problems change as you start, focusing and building the business. But the first thing I realized is that you want to be selling high end. And then the other thing was that you want it to be recurring. That if you're having to go out every single month and find 4,000 new customers, one is the fact that it's just hard to do that, but also you burn through a market so quickly. So with ad spend, with other things. So if you only need like 10 or 5 customers to be earning, say, 10,000 a month, then your messaging can be doesn't have to be as effective because you just need to resonate with 5 to 10 people. And also if they're paying you that every single month, then that's when you don't have to keep going out finding them consistently, and you can just focus on delivering a really great service and product. So we had people who were buying our programs, and a lot of them were entrepreneurs and coaches, and they were asking how they could do this thing. And they'd seen such a shift in their mentality and what they were doing. The courses were nothing to do with business, and they'd still increased what they'd done with their businesses, that they wanted to know how they could do that with other people. And so that's when we decided I would partner up with a coach who'd grown their business to 7 figures in 3 years, and actually show people how to use these questions that I developed to help people get the shifts in their mentality that had increased their business, combine that with a business coach who'd grown her business as well. And so we formed the Business Coach Academy. And
have you hired business coaches before?
Yes, I have. Should I stop sharing my screen? I don't know if they.
I pulled it out, so if you want to show another slide or something. Yeah.
No. I wanted to come back to the camera
because I've hired coaches myself for at least 2 years in the 2009 to 10 when I went through hyper growth with my debt business. I had a coach on retainer for about a year, and I was paying him I think $3,500 an hour. So every month I would have a call for an hour, and I did that for about 11 or 12 months, and I found it useful.
Yeah, well, this is what I've heard in many of the programs, because I've joined multiple masterminds. Just the other week, I joined another one for $5,000, and I thought it was going to be much more than that. It was a steal. But I heard in many of them that they talk about this concept of the mirror, is that people don't have business problems, they have personal problems, and you'll never get anybody to pay you more than what you're willing to invest in a program. So if you only will ever buy something that's worth $10, then trying to get someone else to go and pay you $1,000 for something, you have no belief inside you that should ever be worth that. So, I mean, even when I was working at that old company, that it wasn't my own business, I paid $10,000 for a 4-day course in California, which was almost half my take-home salary with flights and everything, just to learn and get that knowledge to improve and invest in yourself. I was fortunate enough to meet Warren Buffett when I was in university in America, and he has famous signs when you get to the airport saying the best investment you can make is in yourself. So if you're not willing to do that, so I've had tens of different coaches and masterminds that have been anywhere from 5, 10,000, 25,000, in order to learn and grow and keep scaling to this level.
Cool. Types of businesses that you can run, because we made a note to kind of cover that, because that's one of the things that guys always are asking about with the side hustle notion. And again, we're trying to replace the belief that a side hustle is a viable way to use your time. You can use your time to walk people's dogs or drive Uber. Okay, let's not be mistaken, but you're at the bottom. I mean, you might as well go date a single mom with 4 kids from 4 different fathers. It's low-hanging fruit. So the kinds of businesses that you can run, can you kind of walk people through those just from your own perspective and your own experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can share the slides again, there might be an easier way for me to do it.
Mm.
It's a little clip from the class that I think people might want to go and see, but I can kind of walk that through. Can everybody see this slide?
Yeah, you're up.
Okay, great. So as we talked about, you want to focus on the level of income that you can generate. So basically, at the very low end, you've got software and apps. And having made this mistake after we developed the $10 offer, I went and spent about $150,000 on an app that we still didn't manage to get launched. But even if we had, we'd have only been able to generate like $9 per month from somebody. So at one end, you've got, if you can get out to millions, then that can work. But it's very difficult to do that and very capital intensive. Then going a bit higher up, you've got online products and like affiliate marketing. So Amazon FBA, and you'll see a lot of things on YouTube about that. And it can be a good business to start, but the problem is you have no control. You have no control if that product suddenly gets terrible, if they yank the affiliate program. So you want something with more control than that. Then you start getting into the higher ones like rental.
Let me just stop
property.
on the FBA thing just for a sec, because I want people to marinate on this for a bit, because this is like the next level of stupid when it comes to side hustle. First level of stupid is Uber. Second level of stupid is FBA. There's probably, I can count them on both hands, probably at least 10 people that I've spoken to in the last couple of years that have used FBA and gotten off FBA. What Zander's saying is true. It might look like quick, easy, and simple way to move products around. One, physical products are not a favorite for me, and I'll let you kind of explain why, because I know that you got your own perception. I've already talked about it before, but physical products are a pain in the ass, one. And two, you don't really have a direct connection with your audience. Like we've seen Amazon, like I've heard a number of people running big businesses actually say that Jeff Bezos is an evil man. And he's an evil man because of the way that they treat the sellers. They treat them like garbage. It's basically the same way that government treats employers here in Canada. They treat you like crap and they preserve the employee. And there's all kinds of issues that can come out of that. But the other thing that they end up doing often is they end up competing against the seller. So if they find something does really well in the algorithms and they've done something to build it up there, there's quite a few guys that I've heard tell me that Amazon has basically white labeled their own product. They'll delist yours, push it down, and then they'll promote their own. So there's all kinds of problems that come from the FBA model. But carry on, go ahead.
Yeah, so the main point is you have no control, which is, you know, a key like thing of like masculine energy as well, is having freedom. And so that freedom comes with being able to make those choices. So if all of a sudden you've actually taken the time to build this up and then they yank it, it's just a nightmare. Then you've got rental properties, which if you have the capital, you can be earning anywhere from $300 to $1,000 a month. And I've had rental properties in the past and just such a nightmare. I've been selling them off this year. Then you've got the kind of business coaching, or life coaching would be just under that. Then business coaching, you can charge slightly more, about $1,000 to $5,000. Then trading, if you can actually make some good trades and exit well, you might be able to get that. And maybe at the top, flipping houses. So this is just on a scale of at what level of income are some of the different options available. But we said it's not just about level of income. You also want frequency. So how often is it recurring? Well, trading and flipping houses, it only happens once. You do the work and then you sell the house or you make the trade, and now you've got to go find another opportunity, another house, do it up. Okay, online products and affiliates. You can do the work once of setting it up, and it might last like 1 to 12 months, depending on how well you've built the email list, the relationship, if the affiliate product keeps being available, whether you've burnt through the things. Then beyond that, like rental properties, you can do the work once of getting a tenant in, and then hopefully they'll pay you. I think the average rental property duration is about 3 years. I explain that much more in the class, each of the numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head here. Business coaching, on average, you can keep them, you know, about 3 to 5 years when you know how to coach them well. So my partner had clients that was 8, 9 years. So that one client who's paying at the start $2,000 a month, and then later as the business grows up to $8,000, $10,000 a month, instead of a client that's worth, you know, just $2,000 1 month, you're paying it for years. It can be $250,000, $500,000 client. So, and then you've got software and apps, which a lot of time to set up initially, but if you've developed them in a way that they work and people like, then they can last a long time. So when we look at both of them, in essence, like the holy grail, I like to call it, of high level of income and high level of frequency, you can start to see how the different options available kind of map out, and you want to be as far to the top right as possible. Now, rental properties are great, but one of the if you like dealing with that stuff, I personally don't, because it's a nightmare even when you've got people running it for you. But the problem you've got as well is some of these are really capital intensive and some of them are really time intensive as well. Like software and apps, it's going to take you years and hundreds of thousands from someone who's spent that on an app. It's just absolutely brutal to try and go and think you're going to build something like that. So you're looking for this combination of what has a high level of income, what has a recurring frequency, and then what won't cost too much money and time investment. So what assets can I quickly monetize? And one of the quickest assets you can monetize is if you can make yourself more valuable and you're able to ask simple questions that can change the perspective of people who are willing to pay you, and that's worth a lot to their business, then that's a very fast way to earn that income. And that's kind of where we've been focusing on helping and training people because of, you know, my background and my partner's expertise running businesses, and training people up to be able to do that.
I've lived this personally, so I can certainly echo what you're saying here. Like on the top left up over here where you had, if you can just go back to the prior slide where you had flipping houses.
Sorry, I caught that. Yeah.
So top left with high end but non-recurring. When I started out my debt business around 2004-5, we were in the flipping housing area, but we weren't flipping housing. We were basically, it's a business model where you eat what you kill. So it's like a lion. It goes out, it hunts, knocks off a zebra, eats for a day, it's famished, and then it doesn't do anything for 3 or 4 days, and then it's hungry again, and it goes and does it all over again. So you're always hunting, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I was doing at the time with the debt business, because we were getting our leads from mortgage refinances. They were paid out in a lump sum. And then we had to go do the same thing all over again. So we were always chasing new deals. Now, the problem with those, we had times where we didn't get paid. And I have a video that I'm going to make on this for my own channel, because somebody requested that they asked me to talk about financial services and the way that I built the business. And I grew it up to about $300,000 a month in revenue. So I'll break that down separately. But I pivoted over to the right-hand side of the scale there, where you've got recurring, but it's still high end, meaning you're collecting your revenue off your customer base over about a 36-month period of time. I think you've got 2 to 5 years around there for business coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
So very, very similar. And that's what's skyrocketed that particular business for me. Like we went from doing about $30,000 a month in revenue up to $300,000 a month within 5 years. It was a lot of work, and I'll get into the details separately, but I totally co-sign what you're showing over here. It's 100% accurate. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that bit's pretty much finished in terms of the different business models. The one thing I will say, people always ask about coaching, the different types, like life coaching and consulting. So life coaching, they tend to obviously not pay as much because it's not as linked to financial things. With business coaching, certain questions of where they should focus in the business can suddenly save them a couple of $1,000 a month. It becomes easier to justify that higher number. So life coaching, if it's just goal setting and things like that, is a lower amount, and actually it usually ends up being less because the problem gets solved much quicker, whereas a business is a more complicated system, so it takes more time. And then people ask about consulting, and consulting, the thing is you can get paid slightly higher than business coaching because it's very specific normally what you're going to go in and solve, but it's usually a lower duration because you've only got one very specific thing, whereas unlike coaching, consulting, you need to know the answer. And that's why I've put like extra time things there, because it takes time to develop that level of expertise. You have to be an expert on a specific thing, go in and teach them like how to do something and produce that over and over. Whereas business coaching, there's a small element of that, but the big thing is how you structure the questions that you ask people, the simple questions that we can give you in this training program to help them get the answer. And that's the big difference. So now you're actually, it's not quite as high monthly, but it's much longer recurring, and it's much quicker to set up because you're not the one having to say, oh, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. A lot of times the business owners, they know what they should be doing, or they might not be looking in the right way. So your job is to get them being able to do it and look at the things that they might need to put their attention to. So I just thought I'd touch on that because people always ask.
All right, let me throw the super chat up because it's been sitting there in the queue for a bit. Andy says, would housing inspections be a good side hustle? I'm assuming that you mean for buying and selling homes, because there's usually a home inspection done before it trades hands or they waive the conditions. But what do you think of that?
Yeah, so I mean, the way you want a framework, you want a mental model to think about this stuff. So if you look at how much that you could earn per hour based on a housing inspection, and then how much it would cost you, how many hours it would take of non-billable time to get each housing one, then you'll get an idea of what it could possibly be earning per year. So for example, on average, if you were going full-time job, 40 hours a week, 5 days, 40 hours a week, and 2 weeks off a year, then if you can earn $500 an hour, your maximum potential earnings is $1 million. And then what you're actually earning just shows you how well you are at converting your hours available into that. So if the housing inspection, if you can get a lot of them very quickly, then it could, and you can get paid a high hourly rate, then that could work. But if you do that simple maths and calculate what it could be, a lot of these businesses, like if you take that as an example of Uber and the hourly rate, $10 to $15 an hour, and say, okay, well, even if I could spend $2,000 an hour full-time working at this, what's my max cap that I could earn? And it's going to come out at about 100,000 a year or 200,000 a year. But then if nobody's earning that because it takes so many hours to do it, that's how you can do the mental model. So we can't really, I don't know enough about it, but that's how you can think about it in your mind to answer the question of whether it's worth it or not, to be able to go and do something like that.
Let me just add to that, because Zander's being a lot kinder than I am. No, it's a stupid idea. The way that home inspections work in the transaction of a buy and sell is it's usually placed as a condition of the sale on a purchase agreement when you buy a house that's up on the market, and they usually come by and they'll check the roof, the soffitting, the furnace, the flooring, the structure of the building, like all that kind of stuff. They spend maybe an hour or two at it. I'm not really sure what the total length of time is. It's roughly an hour or two, depending on the size of the house. And they charge, last time I had a home inspected, $400 maybe. So when you factor in the time that you're spending driving out there, you've got to take out the ladder, set it up. Like, these guys aren't showing up in a Lamborghini SUV hauling their stuff around. They're showing up in a 20-year-old beat up Toyota pickup truck. They're not making bucks deluxe. They're making money. They're earning a living. And while it's called a side hustle, it's not a side hustle. A lot of guys will go out there and they'll become a jack of all trades and masters of fucking nothing. Mm-hmm. And they've got a real estate license. They've got a life insurance license. They've got a home inspection license. They've got a this license, a that license, and they do that. And it's like, if you're going to do something and you're going to earn a living at it, be world-class at it and do it at a high price point. Now, you don't have to do that. You can earn a living being a home inspector. I had a roommate when I was 23 in a house that I rented in Richmond Hill that was a home inspector. And he was broke. He ended up, after a few months, I think, moving out and living with his single mommy girlfriend. Whatever happened to him after that, I have no idea, but I'm sure it didn't end well if if he was still following the path that he had chosen. Let me grab a couple more of these super chats before we move on. Adam says, thoughts on SEO consulting. What do you think of that?
Yeah, so SEO consulting, I think, can be a good one to move towards. The problem is how saturated it is and whether you can differentiate yourself amongst the people that are doing it that's available. So it's definitely a viable option, but you're getting into actually having to do the work and be accountable for that versus being there to get the best performance out of somebody else. So instead of just being able to ask simple questions that make a big difference to a business owner, you've got to make sure you're producing results consistently and over. But it does at least tick the boxes of high end and recurring in most cases. So it's not a terrible place to start.
Here's what I've noticed about SEO consultants. The best brains in the SEO business, they're running their own business. They're the ones that are promoting their own products, affiliates, or whatever. They're making good money. The ones that usually are running consulting businesses, the ones that I've hired anyway were crap. They were abysmal. Like I figured out what they knew within about a few days of reading a few books and testing, like split testing some strategies. But the problem with SEO is a constantly moving target. It's not like you can figure it out and just leave it. Algorithms change consistently. You know, YouTube, Google, I don't know what other major search engines, like there was Bing when I used to do a lot of PPC stuff, but like even Yahoo was big at the time too. Like I did a lot of pay-per-click advertising, which kind of ties into the next question. Like, is Google ads a good investment ROI? I can answer that because when I first started to do Google PPC advertising around 2005, we were capturing leads for $3-4 tops. Like usually about $2 to $3 was a good range is what we were acquiring leads for. And when I say leads, I mean name, email address, phone number, and debt load. And at the time it was profitable. We did great. You know, we pivoted into a monthly recurring revenue model. We did that for another 5 to 10 years, ran great. PPC died off for us in that niche for debt relief because the cost got driven up to about $40 to $50. So right now, if you go to a lead generation company and you want to buy leads, they're probably going to try to sell them to you for a minimum of at least $40 to $50, in some cases $75. And the conversion of a debt lead to a paying customer, it's a total wash after about $40. So anybody that's buying leads at $70 in that industry is going to be losing money unless they've got some magic wand that I don't know about. But that's a business that like I know like the back of my hand. So long story short, if it's cost effective. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I do want to add to that because I've been obsessing about this recently because we're just about to scale the new offer on YouTube and Google Ads. But the thing everybody gets wrong is they obsess over the ad and the ad copy, and they don't actually build a powerful business behind it. So especially people who are running online products, they go and obsess like crazy on like all this like clever like chatbot funnel or like Google Click here, and they're trying to get the ad cost down slightly. And they haven't actually built a product that people will finish their payment plans on. And so if you can get people to finish, most people online, they're only going to finish about 50% of their payment plans. So if you can get people to actually finish those payment plans because you build a good product, and like we don't call it a side hustle, we're talking like going pro and building something real or valuable, then it becomes easy to compete because you can pay more because your product, like you said, Rich, the debt person might, after $40, it might not be worth it. With online programs, if you can now be paying more, you can crush everybody in the market. So people just have the wrong focus quite often and obsess over the wrong things instead of building a simple business and knowing their numbers in the industry.
Yeah. Thanks for the super chat, Intelligent Eating. Appreciate it. If you had a question, just throw it in the chat there. I'll keep my eye open for a second. Drew, what did you say here? Yeah, fitness industry stuff. I was going to say something about selling and using PPC ads. I had a couple of coaching calls in the last 6 months from guys that put out books. And I think there's a lot of anxious guys to put out stuff and they have nobody to sell it to. And it's at a price point where you can't market it on a paid basis, meaning there's 2 books. There's one sitting on my shelf that I'm probably never going to read. There's another one that I'm going through right now, which I'm enjoying. But there's a lot of guys that have basically taken what they know. Maybe they're good at it, maybe they're bad. I don't know, but they don't have an audience, and they'll go and put together this product, this book or something like that, but they have nowhere to sell it. And you can't promote a $10 book on pay-per-click advertising. You can't promote a $10 book on Amazon to try to get it in front of people to sponsor it. It's just not cost effective. So you have to have an audience to sell it to already, right? I mean, I've been doing what I've been doing. I've got close to 700 videos. I've got all these great pieces of content, and all I'm doing is I'm basically distilling it down into a book, which I'm not a great author. It's just taking me a while, bear with me, but I'm distilling it down to a book. I'm never going to do any kind of paid advertising. I haven't done any paid advertising in 5 years is what I'm doing personally. Everything that I reach is all organic. So if I say, hey guys, I have a book, it's because I have people subscribe to my channel and they want to grab something that's going to distill down all the ideas, or maybe hand it off to a friend or give it as a gift. That's when you have those lower price point ones. But there's a lot of guys that make the mistake of, I've done this now, and then they'll go and put it for sale and then nobody buys it. It's crickets. You have to have an audience, right? I mean, if you're going to do something at that price point, you have to have an audience that's interested in what it is that you're offering.
Yeah, can I add to that, Rich? Because I think it's
Yeah.
a great point. I've tried to share my screen again. I don't know whether it's going to come up.
You've got us on us. There you go.
Yeah, so I think it's a great point. And like, why can't you advertise at that? Because there are certain things that are sold at that. But the problem is that ads are a zero-sum game. And this is, I think, maybe the biggest lesson that people can hopefully take away this. We said it from the start, like, instead of calling it a side hustle, actually making it your main business. Or you can think about it of actually, instead of just treating it like an amateur thing, like, actually, how do you go pro at something? So if you are like in high school, for example, and you're playing basketball and you can like dunk on everybody, right? So you get to this level of like high school, and it's the same with ads. So maybe this is with ads of earning like $1,000 a month. Okay. And so it's the equivalent of like high school. But then what happens is you're going to get the guys who actually are building real businesses around this, who are taking it really seriously. So like I did to hit 100,000 a month, even though it was a $10 offer, we had an upsell behind it. Another thing, we had a support team. We tested about 45 different landing pages. We tested the sales video about 15 times. So you're going to start hitting and coming up against guys who aren't messing around. They're looking to earn $10,000 a month. And then, so that's maybe when people go to like university in the basketball terms, just to keep it simple. And they can maybe compete, but everybody's training a bit harder and a bit better, has already got some talent. Whereas in high school, you had some people who were just messing about for the fun of it. And if you want to go pro and actually do that, everything has to become about your life. And these are the guys who are focusing their business like $100,000 a month, who are doing everything, like optimizing their time, their focus, their business, their funnels, the micro 0.1% improvements. So thinking that you can compete with this guy up here in a zero-sum game of getting the ads over, it's just impossible. So the biggest thing you're going to learn is about how you have to take a more like serious approach to what you're doing, and actually learn a system that's going to make you able to compete because of you're following somebody who has built a system around this stuff. Hope that made sense.
Yeah. You've covered strivers. You've covered how you kind of arrived at this point of business coaching being good recurring revenue at a high price point. Most people probably automatically think they don't have the skills or the know-how to be a highly paid coach. Mm-hmm. How do they do that? How does that work? What does that look like for them?
Yeah, so I just want to give you a quick example, and then I'll give you very specifics. And then if you want to get more questions, you can. But have you ever had this experience where you are, say, with a friend in their house or something like that, and you're about to go out, and they go, "Oh, I've lost my keys." Okay, and they're hunting around finding them, and then you don't have a clue where the keys are, like no idea. You've never even seen their keys. You don't know what it looks like. But you say to them, "Oh, when did you last have them? Oh, did you have them in the jeans? Oh, could you have left them on the countertop? Where's the last place you remember? Like, do you normally put them in a place?" And all of a sudden, one of your questions, they go, "Oh yeah, no, I just put it in my jeans because I went out the other day." So your question triggered them to just suddenly think in a different way about the problem that they were facing. So all you're doing with business coaching is you need those kind of questions to be able to ask to the people to get the answers from them that's structured around business. So we can simplify that down. So for example, in fact, I don't even need to share my screen for this, but I'll just, in fact, no, if I can, Rich, again, can I share my screen?
Yeah, pop it up. Go ahead. I just have to, you got to make the request at it. While you're digging that up, let me just hit on the super chat. Your thoughts on real estate wholesale. I just made 20K on 2 houses. I'm assuming that's house flipping. We just talked about that about 20 minutes ago. If you just want to pull back the slider, we covered that already.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I can request it. Sorry, I kept canceling it.
Yeah. Here you go.
Yeah. So here's an example of a business owner who wants to double their business. Okay. So lots of people think that, or even some business coaches, when they haven't been properly trained, will go out and think, okay, if we want to double businesses, right, we got to go and get a bunch of new customers, and we've got to increase price, and we need to set up a new marketing campaign and things like that. Now, most businesses that operate might have about a 10% profit margin, maybe 20%. Some businesses might be higher, but like if you're looking at a construction business or something like that, it will be well below 10%. So I think the average in the FTSE 500 is 11.1% or something like that. But let's just say 10% as an example. So instead of going out thinking, right, we need to increase marketing spend and all this stuff by 30%, if you just ask them to highlight their expenses and say, does this expense help you keep or get new customers? And then if they answer yes, you ask how you can reduce it. And if they answer no, how can you eliminate this expense? Then you can double a business's profit, the thing that they actually get to take home, simply by reducing expenses by 11% when there's a 10% margin. So just knowing that, now I don't want to terrify you with the numbers and things like that because it's just that simple. But that versus having to, and that's fully in their control. Within the first week, they can go and get that, and suddenly already they're thinking about their business in a different way rather than constantly having to grow and go on and on and on. Before you do that, you want these ways to optimize and cut the fat out of the business. So just having these simple questions and this structured way of thinking that we'll give you in this class then is what can add massive value because they have the answers. You don't need to be doing it. And a lot of the time, it's not just about getting them to do things in their business. It's actually getting them to do things for themselves. Okay. So just having them highlight, asking them questions like, okay, well, what do you need to stop doing that's not adding value when they're overwhelmed and constantly firefighting? And then getting them to clarify how many hours a week would you save doing that? How can you best use your time you've regained? Just having a way to structure your questions organizes people thinking, and you would be shocked at how valuable that is to them, because now they go out and move forward within their business. So you just need to know these simple questions to ask to be able to go and make a massive difference, just like the key example. You don't need all the answers to be able to go and do that. You need to know the right questions to be able to shift people's thinking and get them moving forward.
Can you throw that XY axis chart back up that covered the recurring revenue versus profitability? Because we've had this pop up in the chat a few times. Thanks for the super chat. CD says, thoughts on starting Shopify drop shipping biz. Where does that fall on the Holy Grail?
Yeah, so Shopify, I would say, comes in around this state. Depending on the Shopify, you can have a range. You can sell very low-end products. I don't know how high you can go on Shopify. But then you've got the problem of constantly having to get new customers. So probably not even that far in the recurring. I suppose if you've got a bit of a system, then you're kind of repeating the system, but you are still having to go out and get new customers all the time. So Shopify is it's a great model. It's just you've got to deal with more hassle rather than monetizing your
like if you had a subscription business where they signed up for hair gel, razors, like Dollar Shave Club would be on the recurring side, but it's a physical product, so it's not quite high on the price point. So it doesn't end up in the top right corner over there that the business coaching element does. It's good that you guys are asking the question, but these are the standard questions that usually come up is what about FBA? What about drop shipping? What about home inspections? These are all ideas of side hustles, but they're not ending up in the top right-hand corner of the recurring with high-end price point, which is what you want to aim for. If you're going to do the work, if you're going to apply yourself to something, if you're going to create a business, do something that's got a good ROI. The last thing you want to do is create something that you hate. Trust me, I've done it.
Yeah, me too. It sucks. And if you want to build anything great, you have to really enjoy it. So that's the thing, is when you start going out and just chasing, what seems quick or what you've seen others do, it's kind of a recipe for disaster. Because if you're really going to be great at it, you want to enjoy it.
Adrian's got a question here. Thanks for the super chat. He says, any knowledge on IT consulting? I'm a systems engineer thinking about going down that road. From what I've heard, it can be lucrative, but high risk. Is there a way that you can do high-end business coaching in IT for a systems engineer?
Yeah, so we actually have a lot of people who've joined our program recently who have an expertise in the consulting. And the reason they wanted to actually join the program is because in the class, I give out the kind of questions that can keep clients much longer. Because the thing you've got to understand is that a client will join initially for the business strategy because they think that's what they need. But they will stay long term, if you know how to position it right, for their own personal growth and their own improvement, because they see that that has a bigger impact on the business because they're the one running it. So when you can take an expertise and add to it an understanding on how to coach people, the coaching becomes a more long-term thing. You can then have the best of both worlds, in essence, because you can come in easily at the front end and the niching of what the result is, but then you know how to work with it. So we had someone join recently who is an expert in electrical companies, and he's just using that to then develop his coaching skills because he's never been formally trained on how to get shifts with people, because that's usually the biggest problem that people will have, is they can't consistently keep the clients because they can't get them to do the things they need to do. And that's why my background of actual performance and knowing what causes that, what I was able to do from my early 20s with Olympic coaches, Olympic athletes, is what is a key difference that we bring to the model that we teach people. And we give them a business system, but we also give them the particular questions to ask and the way to structure, like goal setting and the emotions and things that are going on inside the client.
So there's another super chat there, and I also want to touch on franchise because that's a phrase that's popped out to me a few times as I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on the chat here. But Eating Intelligence says, what about licensing an existing profitable consultancy business versus increasing price? I get too many leads to deliver by myself. What are your thoughts on that?
So can you repeat the question?
So the question is, it's just up on the screen. It says, what about licensing an existing profitable consultancy business versus increasing the price? I get too many leads. I get too many leads to deliver by myself. So he's paying to generate leads, but there's way more than what he can deliver. So it looks like he's looking to contract it out.
Okay, yeah. So I thought the question originally was about whether people should buy into franchises. So that was.
No, I want to deal with franchise in a second because that's a different topic.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that as well. So that question, well, first of all, congratulations, because if you've built something that you're beyond your capacity, I would crunch the numbers at the end of the day. It becomes what you want to. Let me read the kind of licensing existing versus increasing price. It's up to what you want to do. Obviously, you're going to now have to deal with other people and know whether. One of the things you need to understand is once you actually start franchising yourself or licensing, you're not going to, depending on how you structure the deal, you're not going to be able to earn anything if they're not earning. And you're going to have to deal with the hassle of trying to get them to do what they need to do. So a lot of the people we work with in our higher end programs were managers at franchise companies because they had some business experience and other stuff. But one of their biggest problems they've got is actually getting the franchise owners to do the things they need to do to grow their particular practice. And if they don't do that, they can't keep up with payments. And then you've just got this burning cycle of people. That's my experience with franchises, but I don't have that much experience with them.
Yeah, I got one
here. Crunch the numbers.
Yeah, I got one down here on that. Intelligent eating. I'm going to drop my Clarity link if you want to book a call on that. It's going to require some dialogue. There's a lot more to that than what we see here, but that's in the chat if you wanted to have a one-on-one on that. There's a couple other super chats here I got to get to before we get to wrapping up. Online course mentorship, monthly subscription. Online course mentorship, monthly subscription is great. Membership communities. If you have a monthly mentorship, like I run a monthly community that's on the high end for business owners. They have to be doing at least $200,000 a year in annual income, which is really not a lot because EO's over $1 million. And they've got to be the founder of the business to qualify for it. And they have to pay the price point to get in. So that creates either a lump sum payment, which is usually at about a 20% discount, or they pay monthly subscription revenue to be a member of that community. And then we meet monthly. We have forum updates, what's working, what's not working. There's presentations. They're great. If you're at the point where your business is growing and you're making money, I highly encourage you to get into some kind of either forum, EOS type of product, a mastermind, even what I offer. There's a link on the community page of my website. You've said yourself, Zander, you've been in a few of these before yourself.
Yeah, I have. But often the ones that I've joined, they are around a very specific result, and then it's taking that kind of away from monthly. It's more a high end, very specific what you want to achieve. So, for example, one I joined most recently is learning how to scale YouTube like ads and advertising up to tens of thousands of dollars a day. So you can charge a lot of money because I'm already spending a lot on advertising and I want to make that better. So it's a great model if you can get it working. The thing you've got to realize about low end monthly is that you have to be consistently producing good quality content, and it's not around a specific result usually because it's more diverse. You have to keep producing that content, and it's got to be good because otherwise you're just churning all the time. So it's great if you can make it work, and it's definitely brilliant as like a downsell for other high-end programs for the people who don't buy. But it can be very difficult to scale those things because you don't have enough cash on the front end. Because if it's a $27 a month offer, like you were saying before, Rich, it's hard to scale a $10 offer. So even though it's $27 a month, even if you keep them 12 months, you don't get that $270 until down the road. Whereas if we took business coaching, your first month might be $2,000 on average, anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. You can afford to spend on advertising, and then you don't need that many people. So it's a tricky model.
Yeah, this is one that's come up. Can you pull up your golden scale for us again?
Yeah.
I want to throw franchises on this. Here we go. So the Holy Grail. What are your thoughts on franchises, and where does that fall on the scale? So franchises, from my experience, I mean, I've looked into buying a Tim Hortons franchise. One of the requirements they have is the business owner has to run it. I'm not going to work at a Tim Hortons. I just have better things to do with my time. But for the most part, it's the head office that makes all the money. There's certain franchise owners, like if you buy and run a couple of McDonald's franchises, you're a millionaire easily. But for the most part, franchisees don't make a lot of money. The franchisor, the one issuing the franchise, makes most of the money. They've got the supply chain, they make their royalty, they get their money on the products that have to get shipped to the outlet to get distributed. Now, in case you haven't noticed, we're in COVID and we're in a quarantine type of scenario. So I've already predicted this, and we're going to see this happen anyway, but most companies are not going to hire people back. We're going to move. We're going to pivot. I have friends that are saying like 80% of people are never going to be hired back. I don't think it's going to be that high, but a lot of businesses are going to pivot in the direction where they don't need brick and mortar retail outlets, AKA franchises. So you're going to see a lot of these kind of go the way of the dodo. People are getting more and more comfortable with ordering stuff online. There's courier trucks driving around my street all day long now, dropping stuff off. What are your thoughts on franchises, and where do you think it falls on the Holy Grail scale there?
Yeah, just before I answer that, Rich, just wanted to mention there's a bit of research done that every recession and recession, there is a lag. The economy and stocks bounce back quicker, but the lag of employment takes longer because these businesses realize that and automate and put in systems in place and don't hire the workforce back. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of research I read, so it's spot on what you were saying. Franchises, it depends on the franchise. You can get franchises about how to put babies to sleep and become a trained coach in those types of things and be earning like $50 an hour, or you can buy a McDonald's and that's still low end here, or you can have like business coaching franchises. There's such a range that it would depend on the franchise where you go on the Holy Grail. But what I will say is that I actually talk about franchise in this class that I encourage everybody to watch, but you're going to have to pay a high fee up front in most cases for the franchise. And then beyond that, you have to pay monthly fees, and then there's all kinds of rules that you have, and then you may only have like a certain sector that you're able to go to, you market in or do. So it's really going to depend on the franchise. If I could just get to the slide, here's an example. So I just wanted to show you, my partner she actually became the number one business coach in the world's largest coaching business franchise. But these were some of her initial fees that she had to pay. So right now in the UK, it costs 100,000 to get that franchise. Now, why can they charge so much? Because it can be so valuable to be a business coach. But beyond that, they've then got the other franchise fees, which is like ongoing royalty fees, marketing and advertising, mandatory conferences you've got to go to. So you've really got to look at the numbers. And every one of these, so this one costs like 66 to 88,000 to join business coaching franchise. This one costs a minimum of 30,000. And each of these say like you've got to have a minimum of this net worth. So the cost involved is gigantic. So one of the things we're trying to do is we're basically on a mission to disrupt that business coaching industry, so that because so many of these franchises cause people's lives just to be ruined because they can't make it work. They should have, they don't get supported in the way. So we really want to reduce the cost of that. But I think it really depends on the franchise where it would be in the Holy Grail. But you've got to be aware about those upfront costs and the ongoing investment. Because we get messages all the time of people, we've got one person who was on the train tracks because of what the franchise was doing. And they called my partner before we'd set up this business to help him through it. And now he's part of our programs and stuff like that and turned his life around. But that's what it causes, people losing their houses. Like some of them are absolutely, and I won't name which ones, but brutal. So you've got to be very, very careful.
Franchise equals buying a job. That's what it boils down to for most people. Is you end up, basically, buying yourself a job. So you basically go and employ yourself without any ability to maneuver. Like in Entrepreneurs Organization, I think they still have it, but when I was involved in it about 10 years ago, they had a limitation that they would not allow franchise owners into EO. So by definition, being a franchise owner does not make you an entrepreneur. It just means that you bought the rights to a territory, you bought the rights to receiving products and services, and you also buy the rights to being basically held to their standards. You can't do whatever you want. You have to do what they tell you to do. You have to go to their school, their university, their annual conferences. You don't, it's basically buying yourself a job is really what it boils down to. Again, there are certain franchises that do work, that do make you money. Like I said, you buy a couple of McDonald's franchises, you're a millionaire, guaranteed. I don't know what the cost is to get it. It's probably quite expensive. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's close to $1 million to buy.
I think it used to be about 10 years ago. It used to be $1 million for a franchise. I
wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot more than that. So with that being said, we got to wrap this up. I know you've got a business coaching academy, so I'm going to drop this in the chat. If you guys are interested in getting involved in it and learning how to create your own side hustle so that you can earn money and do what Zander's talking about doing, it is in the more profitable category and it's recurring revenue. Do you want to kind of give them a little bit of breakdown of what's involved in that and what the steps are?
Yeah, sure. I would just recommend, like we've touched upon part of it, but there's so much information in this class that is available. I think you've seen like some of the slides, but
do you want me to throw that up for you?
Yeah, is my screen back there?
There you go.
Like I would just encourage people to sign up for this class because it's just got so much content and information available. So if you go to businesscoachacademy.com/EIC, it's going to walk you through step by step, like the 4 aspects, each stage and the 4 aspects of what you have to do to get 1 to 5 K clients, and then the different options available. So you've seen parts of it, but we really haven't been able to get into the meat of it. So I actually like give away the exact things to post online available and what messages are going to come back and get followed up with. And then the specific questions to ask and things like that, and then other resources you can download. So I would just encourage everybody to go there, watch the class, and then if you want to become a part of what we offer at the end, then great. But you can get all the information and decide, what's right for you. And there's a lot of value in there that's really going to take what we've discussed here and give you some of the actual tools and resources to decide whether it's something that you want to go ahead with.
I know that Ryan got into the course months ago when I was first looking at it, when you were putting it together. And one of the things I said to you as I was going through it, it's like, The mindset stuff was worth the price of admission alone. Like, I hadn't even got to the content that deals with building the coaching business and how to prospect and how to earn the money. I know Ryan's gone through it a lot deeper. He's also on my business here. He's building out a great business. You can check him out on YouTube. He'll be putting out some videos. But it's definitely worth taking a look at, guys. If you want to build yourself a proper side hustle, go and commit to it and make it your full-time thing. You can start it out as a side hustle. The cost of admission is it's a couple grand, right, to get into it. But in my estimation, you get more than enough value even just in the first few modules dealing with just the mindset concept about getting your head screwed on right. Because a lot of people will sit there and they'll wallow and they'll sulk in their own pity. It's too much. I don't have time for this. You know, what if I have this, that, or the other obligations? Okay, you can either get results or you can get excuses. You have to decide what you want to do and where you want to go in the world. And the only person in the driver's seat is you. The only person that you can blame for crap results is the person looking back at you in the mirror. So you have to take ownership for your life and you have to go and do work. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just say, Rich, thank you for that message. We've actually just updated that even more. So that was some content that you saw from our old programs, and we've updated it even more. And the feedback from the group and the energy we've had in the group has just been crazy about people just going through. But the main concept that we talk about it is how you actually go pro, like starting from the beginning, what you have to do to be a successful entrepreneur and build your own business. And people have just been going nuts for it. But just to share some things in the group, like when you know the right things to do, and we just hired the top copywriter in the UK for our coaches to work with our clients. And just as an example of the difference that it makes by following a system, one of our coaches, Paul Brooksbank, had been trying to do this for like 18 months. And then once he got with our copywriter, someone he'd known for 18 months, when he finally changed his messaging and did what we taught him in the program, gave him, like the financial advisor gave 3 referrals immediately, all with big businesses that could be worth, $5,000 a month. So it's just having a system in place that you can follow in order to, be a successful entrepreneur yourself, and knowing how to actually structure a business to be able to be get highly paid, and tick both those boxes of high income and recurring. That's the key. All
right. So let's wrap it up on that note. I want to thank who's been playing whack-a-mole for me. Sorry, I'm just scroll up here. Mark, dude, thanks for playing whack-a-mole. I know that it's a bit of a train wreck in there. I'm going to have that set to members only chat soon as I can get the updated studio from YouTube. I got a bunch of really interesting broadcasts this week. I've got another Playing to Win this Thursday. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be a really interesting conversation with a couple of guys that have, let's just say that they've changed around their life dramatically. So look for the launch of that. Real quick, just need to do that and shout out to Grondike, because they are the channel sponsor. So if you guys are showering anyways, which I really hope you are, you want to grab some tactical soap and beard oil. It's a great product. Go check it out. The links are always pinned in the description of videos, or you can just go to slide my finger over coopersoap.com. Check that out. Dude, thanks for hopping on, man. I think you dropped more than enough in the way of truth bombs and nuggets that should be useful to guys on this Sunday. If you guys have enjoyed the broadcast, hit the thumbs up, share it with somebody that might be interested in learning more about how to build a proper side hustle, not something silly like an Uber or walking somebody else's dogs. You want to do something where you get a good ROI in your time. I'm going to say it again. You're on this earth once. Once you're dead, it's over. It's done. Make the most of the time that you're here and start young. You can do this at 40. You can do it at 20. My advice to you is do it when you're younger, because the ROI is going to be greater. Are you on social media? Do you want people to find you, follow your public stuff, or just grab the link that I dropped in the chat there? No, just grab the link that I dropped in the chat. I hardly use any social media. One of the things you're going to learn if you join up about the course is just to eliminate all the distractions of social media. So I don't use social media hardly at all, because we're just focused on growing the business. I encourage everybody, if they want to grow a business, put your phone away, except watch Rich's videos. Thanks. All right, guys. Link is in the live chat. If you're watching the recording, the link is pinned in the top comment. You can grab that there, and hopefully you get some value out of it. Thanks, brother. I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks very much, Rich. Thanks everybody for watching.